Well, it's 4 PM. Why don't we go ahead and call the special meeting to order? No roll call.
Bill's here. I'm here.
What's there? Gene's here. Alex, are you here virtually?
I am.
All right. Does somebody want to make a motion to go into executive session?
I want to, but I don't have enough.
I will if that's.
That'll work.
All right, I move we go to executive session to discuss a conceptual settlement of the litigation concerning running Iron Ranch and management of running Iron Ranch. The subject matters pursuant to CRS section 24-6-402 4B for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions from the district's general counsel on the subject matters, and CRS section 24-6-402 4EI to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators with respect to the subject matters.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Marcus, do you have any words before we this?
So are we alone?
Yes.
Yes, we are now.
Okay, yeah. So the remainder of the executive section will constitute attorney-client privilege communications, and therefore the recording can be turned off so long as such communications constitute attorney-client privilege communications. And
All right, thank you, Marcus.
So,
yes, sir.
we're gonna announce that we are now out of executive session for the recording.
Sure.
That no decisions were made during the executive session.
Are we recording in the regular session yet?
We are recording,
Okay.
yes.
Uh,
We haven't started the regular session though. This is.
No.
do I hear a motion to start the regular meeting?
No, you really
can't.
can't.
No.
Oh,
No.
right,
We're
right,
gonna
right.
adjourn this one now. Move to adjourn the special meeting?
You did? Okay. So seconded.
We have a motion and a second, which I thought we already did.
Not to adjourn, we adjourned, we left executive session, now we're adjourning the special meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry for my ignorance. A motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Take care, everybody. Call me if you need me.
Okay.
Chris, thank you.
Okay, it being 5 PM. Let's go ahead and call to order the regular meeting of Pagosa Area Water and Sanitation District. And let's begin with roll call. Bill.
Here.
EJ.
Here.
Glenn.
Here.
Gene's here. Alex, you here?
Yes, I am.
Okay. First on the agenda then is consideration of the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to look at it and any comments?
I would move to accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a
second.
motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approves unanimously. And we have some minutes to approve. Approval of March 10th and March 12th. Special meeting and a regular meeting, and then special meeting on the 16th. Can we do those all in one fell swoop?
Yes, sir, if the board so wishes.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of those 3 meetings. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And now we have a little time for public comment. There is no public in the room. Do we have anybody with comment or virtually?
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Okay, Carl.
Yes, first of all, I just am disappointed that the board packet wasn't published as promised. I don't know what time it went up, but it wasn't up by noon. And considering the importance of tonight's meeting, I just am not, I don't think that is right. You're going to talk about the drought plan, and the only reason I'm here is that Bill posted something on his website. I still can't find the draft plan on your website. So that's my comment.
It's in the packet.
Okay, thank you, Carl. I'm sorry.
Is he referring to the drought management plan?
I think so.
It's
Yes.
on
Yes,
the
I am.
website, this afternoon.
Yeah, it
Once
is
we
on
get
the
it
website,
finalized,
so-
we'll put everything up.
But thank you for your comments, Carl. We just had someone into the room. We are in the public session or public comment section right now. Do you have any public comment?
Linda Lee, the only thing I would say is, I think we should instrument a drought program before it gets drastic. I know it's yeah, I know that it's voluntary right now.
We have one, and we're gonna discuss it at length at this meeting, so, thank you for coming and you'll see a lot of discussion. Okay, we will close the public comment period. I see no other people chiming in, and now let's go to the consideration of request for exemption from affordable housing policy requirements for the Community Development Corporation. Is that yours?
That is mine. I believe the board has reviewed or had the opportunity to review at the last meeting all of the deeds for all of the houses, and the deeds do comply with your current policy. And I did go and confirm on the assessor's website, although I didn't feel that I really needed to do that. I just, as an extra step, and each one of those people listed on the deed is the owner listed on the assessor's website. Also, Emily had provided to you the letter that was requested by the board for each one of the houses that she sold from the third-party income verification person, Jennifer Kermode, I believe is how you pronounce her last name.
It's Kermode.
It's what?
Kermode.
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 I'll try better.
It's fine.
So I believe at this point, if the board is, willing to approve, Ms. Kermode as an approved third-party income verification, entity, I believe it all complies with your policy. But the policy does require that you all accept that entity if it's outside of the Archuleta County Housing Authority.
And we're also accepting thereby that we're granting the exceptions even for those properties that are above 8% AMI for 2020.
That's correct.
Right.
Yes, thank you for the clarification. Yes,
Do we need two separate motions, or can it all be done in one?
that's up to the board.
I would move that we accept Jennifer Kermode's analysis of the properties, and that we grant CDC the waivers that were awarded in 2024.
We don't have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second. I've had one comment. By stating that, did you mean not only accepting her, Ms. Commode's, analysis, but as an approved future entity to?
No,
No.
I think that's a separate discussion.
Okay.
And I think it's.
I agree with Bill on that. I
Okay.
think this should be a
But in
one-time
this case-
exemption.
In this case, just in this
This
case,
case only.
we accept her.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous, motion passes. Okay, next on the agenda is consideration of proposal for a 2026 rate study.
Yes, excuse me.
So the rate study was sent out for an additional 30 days, the board's requested last month's meeting. We did not receive any additional proposals. Stantec was the only proposal that we did receive. Staff had contacted the SDA and the proposal was put on their website. Staff reached out to Colorado Rural Water. They do not post it. And staff had reached out personally to several agencies. Renee had reached out with no traction. So we wanted to see what the board would like to do moving forward.
Can I make a suggestion since
Yes.
to undo something maybe I did, to be fair? Is, you know, this is a firm we've had for the last 2 rate studies. And I don't doubt that we could get better results. If we put in staff and subcommittee a lot more time to get those results back. But I'm wondering if this is the best year for that. We were quite able a couple months ago just to exercise some prudent business judgment about what the rate should be, working off of the existing rate study. We're still finishing 3 major projects, each of which we hope will go swimmingly, but each of which could come in with extra money. We've got a major drought year potentially ahead of us, which could significantly affect our revenues depending how it breaks. We don't know right now if we're going to be spending $2.6 million over the next 10 years for dry gulch or not, and we'll have a better idea this year whether that's something we're doing. And I think first budget, new finance director, I think to drop, if we choose someone who's going to require a lot of input from our finance director, this is probably not the best year to do that. So I would say maybe we just exercise our business judgment with our existing rate study this year and maybe look forward to putting out a rate study next year, maybe earlier in the year, and maybe giving some of the firms a long lead time so they can schedule us. But I think we got a lot to do this year, and if we're choosing whether the water is going to be 3, 4, or 5%, and wastewater is 7, 8, 9, or 10%, I think that's something we can exercise some just prudent board decision to do. I had kind of suggested it, and I suggest that we not do it now when I look at the complications.
I agree with Glenn.
I could definitely get behind that idea. One thing I'm hoping that we can do with the rate study is to be a little more equitable with our customers. It's a little bit disturbing to me that we're charging half of the CIF to new construction. And as I think about that, that's 100 projects that are paying half of the CIF for the year. And 7,000 customers that are paying the other half. So that's one thing I'd like the board to have a discussion about. And I don't know if it's even possible, but I think we could support this whole community better if there was a tiered CIF depending on size of home, where very large homes paid a very large CIF and very small homes paid little or nothing in a CIF. So those are 2 things that I'd like the board to seriously discuss, and maybe there's a chance that we could have a subcommittee look at those questions and maybe report back to the board, preparing for a rate study next year.
Well, we have a rate study subcommittee.
Mm-hmm.
That's Alex and myself.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think that would be another reason to maybe next year to get a sense of what the direction the board wants to do, rather than just choose a template that we've used, semi-successfully for the last 10 years, so it's BJ.
And I'm sorry.
No, but
No, go ahead, please.
no, I mean,
I agree. I think that's, I think that's a good observation of where we're at, what we're doing, how we're moving forward. I also think that to Bill's point, that's, I was gonna say the same thing. I don't know that you and Alex wanna take that burden on, or whether we wanna create another subcommittee to specifically look into that, but I mean, obviously, I think there's a lot to be discussed, and I think that that could give better direction to the people doing the rate study as well, because I think if we're gonna make substantial changes, especially to a rate structure, them knowing that ahead of time is gonna give them a better understanding of how they're doing.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, I think maybe in one of those comments you use CIF, one meant CIP. But obviously, new construction pays the capital investment fee, but you're saying that we're doing 50-50 to fund the capital investment plan. Right, that's my assumptions, if you'd like to examine that again. And then they'll have a whole lot of questions, because if you assess a different capital investment fee based upon use for initial construction, right? Or do you then carry it through on the monthly bill? You may or may not, right? I'm guessing that you would like to do that, and but you may not.
I didn't think of it that way.
Right.
I was most addressing the CIF.
Right.
I do
So-
think that if we create a subcommittee, having someone who was a part of the original decision would be probably beneficial, so that we understand what the original intent was, if we do go down the route for a subcommittee.
I could back that idea. I guess the only question I would have is, maybe from staff, is there anything that the current rate study doesn't take into consideration that's out there right now? The town issue, obviously, dry gulch and all the things you mentioned are already in the rate study. So is there anything you can think of that?
Well, you're right about the town issue, because we don't know, do we get a lump sum, or are we gonna get, so you're right, so we don't even know how to properly account for that for the next 10 years, so.
We do have we have a backup plan.
Right. I mean,
Right. We did get a buffer in there within the
Right.
revenue bond. But that's not ideal. Right, but
Oh.
that is built into the rate.
Family has lots of buffers.
We put, yeah, so that the current rate study, to answer your question, Gene, does have that in it. The town paying us later. Not so much later, but it is in, it wasn't assumed that we were gonna get a check in 24 or 25. Yes, that's correct, sorry. And then to all of your points, if we do, it sounds like we'd really like to look hard at getting someone different than Stan Tech. And I think that's a great idea. That will take longer. So to your point, we should probably just put on your radar for that's like a late fall
Right.
activity for us to start, like trying to get on their schedule, right? Like did we just put our RFQ out at the wrong time and everybody already had, they're already booked, and Stantec already has my last point, and then I'll be quiet, but Stantec has already done our last 2 rate studies, so they're already used to us, and they have our old rate studies, and they have all of that built already. Someone new is gonna have to build all of that. And so that's gonna be a lot of it. It's usually a huge information gathering exercise, between staff and the rate study folks. So that will take a little extra time. So starting this in the fall will probably, so that might be why Stantec could fit us in.
Yeah. And if it falls between conclusion of this budget and then the serious commencement of next budget, then that's better. Yeah. Just,
For clarity for me,
if anybody would agree.
I thought you were suggesting we just stick with the current one until next year. That's not what you're saying?
Well, roughly, but then we look at it and say, at the end of the year, what are our revenues, what do we need next year? It's saying 10, could we do 7.5? Or I'll be honest, on the water side, I've never thought 3% every year is really sustainable, and we may look at that and say 3, but you know what, we had this big loss of revenue because of the drought, and we got hit with another $600,000 on the highway project, and that's gonna have to be 4.5 next year. You know, we just use it as the guide, and then,
But not hire a company until 2027.
right, not, and we save that money this year.
Or hire them at the end of fall.
Yeah, however,
Or late.
Start to engage them, then they would have.
After the budget's already pretty much done.
And I think personally, and I don't, news person, but, I don't think it's necessarily pro or anti Stantec. I think it's more, we wanna at least see where their numbers fall compared to others versus just accept one bid. I think to Glenn's proposal, it's not necessarily that we're necessarily gonna pick somebody else, but putting ourselves in position where multiple people have the opportunity so that we can make an educated decision versus something that we kind of feel forced into is
right,
from my perspective.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah.
And I think to your point, if we'd send it out in October saying, hey, we'd like to do this sometime early in 2027. When everybody knows that, they can all adjust accordingly.
So, Andy, do you want a motion on this?
Yes, I'd like a motion to give staff guidance on
Okay.
what the board would like to do. Great studies.
I mean, Glenn should make the motion.
well, I move that we defer the 2026 rate study until later this year. With a view towards implementing it in 2027.
We have a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion?
So, we usually set the fees in January. Usually set. our
We
fees
make
in
the
January.
decision on the fees in early December,
And
hopefully.
then have the public hearing in January or February.
Yes, yeah, that's typically how, because you have to have 30 days.
So if we're gonna set fees in the beginning of 27,
Yeah, but I,
will we wanna go ahead and set those fees without having a rate study?
right,
Yeah,
Okay.
so effectively any
So
fees
it'd
that,
be 28 would be when we would implement those changes.
yeah,
and especially if we're gonna move away from the one struct on the residential side, one structure, one EU to a more complicated EU to take a little
Mhm.
more time, I would just add that if I were on that subcommittee, as much as I'm sympathetic to working class wage issues and all of that, inequality, and I'm gonna aim towards, I would aim towards an EU determination that is very engineering based, does not really have a social welfare component, that would hopefully will have a fairness component, but I think it has to be engineering based
Mhm.
for PAWSD, because we're not really in the business of.
Yeah.
Well,
I
it's-
agree with that. I think that there's a practical side to both
Yeah,
sides that you can meet in the middle somewhere that
right,
still offers a more fair, in essence, from one side's perspective, a more fair rate comparison, but it also still doesn't reach the quoted almost free. There still needs to be a basis of minimum, like we are providing service, so there's
Yeah.
either, but yet again, if you do have a way bigger house, you're using more.
yeah, I just want to keep the relationship between us and the customer, and the relationship is, you're building this, so you're paying that.
Yep.
You're building this, so you're paying this. We're not saying you're paying
Correct.
him or her. That's
Correct.
not the direction I want to go.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, practical.
Well, and it just seems like there's so many big ifs out there this year, the ranch, the town,
Oh,
that could just blow everything out of the water, so that's kind of why I agree with the concept, so. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of?
Aye.
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 Passes unanimously.
I'm gonna throw something out, and it just doesn't be voted on, but just to make it a little odd, so part of the rate study is. We will put together a capital investment plan, we do a 20-year capital investment plan, so we. Project out 20 years what we're gonna need. We're 80% through that. I would propose that we finish it,
Oh,
still a lot of work in it, and so when we do the rate study, they'll have a 19-year capital investment plan, which is kind of.
Oh,
So
darn.
I would propose doing that besides canning and doing it again next year. Because there's been a lot of effort and work into that. There's no reason to waste all that. Sure. I agree. 19, 20 years, what you project, you know. We're shooting with a shotgun at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything past 5 years, you're shooting a shotgun.
We need to probably past 2.5.
Well, it's the end of this week.
Okay, next on the agenda, for your information, ma'am, is consideration of revisions to the 2020 drought management plan, and then we'll get into more details. So that's, see, is that yours, Justin?
It's me. Figuring out where my,
Give us lights.
Find our current drought management plan on our website.
No,
Do you have internet access?
I'm sorry.
Do you have internet access?
I do on my phone.
On your phone? Do you want me to print it out for you?
Maybe after
current-
the meeting.
After the meeting? Okay, sure. It'll be hard to read on your phone. Yeah, that gives me a headache just thinking about it.
okay, so our 2020 drought plan that was done in 2020. Had a stipulation in it in 2026 would relook at it. Last year, I almost said fortunately, but I won't say fortunately, we had to implement the drought plan because it was so dry. And so it really worked out well because we could kind of see in that drought plan, because that drought plan was a complete rewrite. It was, you know, completely a new plan. And so we wanted to see what worked out well and what needs some tweaking. So what I did is on Monday, I got the old band back together, the drought committee. And with a couple exceptions, in 2020, Glenn was on it and so was Paul Hansen. For this committee, Director Jones took Director Walsh's place, and Paul Hansen is no longer, he's in Minnesota and not too concerned with the drought here. So here's who we had on our drought committee plan. Again, the same people we had on it 6 years ago. Al was with the Upper San Juan Water Enhancement Program. When he was here last time, he was with the San Juan Water Conservancy District. Peter Hurley is a business owner and a former board member. And he also is an apartment owner, so he had some ideas that worked out well with that experience as well. Joshua Kurz is a hydrologist. You probably all know him. He's the high school science teacher, homeowner, lives off of Hatcher Reservoir, so he had a lot of insight. Mary Jo was with the Augusta Springs Chamber of Commerce. She's recently retired, but she still certainly has her thumb on the pulse of the community. And then Bruce was on it as well. And we met Monday.
So Alan is still on the committee?
Yes, yeah. So, the one thing we got is I think we had really good bones with our 2020. Like I said, a couple things to tweak and we talked about that, but all in all, it's pretty good. So what I want to do first is kind of do a recap of what our 2020 drought plan was. So the basic stuff. So there was drought stages. It went from voluntary through stage 4, depending on how significant the drought was. And they were hit by trigger points. And we had 2 sets of trigger points. This is how the 2020 drought plan is. The early season was based on snow water equivalency, how much water is in the snowpack in the mountains, measured at the Upper San Juan Snowtell Station, which is up on the pass. And that was also tied to when we get the administrative call on 4 Mile. So early in the season, if that snowpack drops really quickly, that would automatically trigger us to go into a drought state early on. It's to do it early on. And then for the rest of the year, if we never were triggered with that, then the rest of the year, we would look at 3 different items. How much water is in Hatcher Reservoir? How much water is flowing down the San Juan River? And the drought stage that the federal government and states say the Archuleta County's in. And they're weighed a little differently. The amount of water in San Juan is weighed twice as much as what the state says our county's in. And the water in Hatcher is twice as much as what we say is in the river. So that's how that's kind of weighed. And then we have drought surcharges and water rate adjustments based on what stage we're in. That's the heart of the plan. Not too far.
Can I ask a question?
You certainly may.
I would assume that we're gonna look at this again in 6 years.
I put that in there again, yes.
So the question about Hatcher being weighed heavier than the river, heavier than was something.
What the state says.
The state's prediction. If we put in a pipeline to Stevens, I would say we would have to go back and look at this earlier
Clearly.
and do an update. Because that's gonna change the whole dynamics of Hatcher.
Yeah, we'd have to then look at, I would propose that we then also look at Stevens. At that point, yes.
Okay.
Kind of small, but basically, this is what we're looking at with these different stages. So voluntary, we're hoping with the voluntary stage that we can cut our water somewhere around 10%, up to 10%. And it goes all the way down. When we get to level 4, which is very severe, we're hoping to cut the water cells by 50%. And so, and the way we're doing that is we're proposing decreases in irrigation. So nowhere in this does this really propose, don't brush your teeth, don't take a shower. It's really for irrigation. And the reason for that is, one is hygiene, but two is we sell 3 times as much water in general in the summer than we do in the winter. Some of that could be because the population increases a little bit in the summertime, but it's primarily because of green grass. And so that's really what we're trying to cut that down to, getting that spike down to a more reasonable level. And we're doing that by, depending on what stage you're in, reducing when you can water your lawn. Whether you gotta do it every other day, once a week, or we're done, no more watering. So that's kind of what we're looking at. This is kind of what I said here. This is where it's at, where it tells you when we go into the different, these are the different steps, you know, the snowtail water equivalency, the call date, or Hatcher and all that. And it changes almost every day, because it's based on the median. So like the snowtail, the median day that the snow typically melts up there, with it's 0 water up there, is May 31st. So that's what we look at. Then we kind of look, the earlier it happens in any given year is what stage would end up going into. And then with Hatcher, we look at every day, because one of the problems we had with the previous drought study was it was based on how much water we had everywhere, even water we couldn't use. And by the time it dropped, we were always going to, if we were going to go into a drought stage, it was going to be in October. Well, turn the water back on, we don't need that. And so it really doesn't make any sense, because if you have, if Hatcher Reservoir is down 2 feet in early October, we're in great shape. If Hatcher is down 2 feet in early May, we got problems.
Right.
And previous drought plan didn't see that any different. If it's down 2 feet or 4 feet, it didn't matter what day, that's when the problem starts. So that's why we kind of changed it to catch up. And we really want to get on top of any drought problems early on, so that we're not draining Hatcher and then being in a lot of trouble. And this is kind of what we do for the rate tiers and the surcharges. So voluntary, there was currently in 2020, there was no changes to rates, there was no surcharges, it was just all completely voluntary. Level 1 was the same thing, where there was no rate increases or surcharges for going over a certain amount of water. Level 2, there's still no surcharge, but there is a rate multiplier. It's 2 times what the rate is of residential flows over 4,000 gallons. So we kind of picked 4,000 gallons. If you use under 4,000 gallons, your bill would be different. If you went over that, it would be an increase in that. At that point, there was no rate increases for commercial. The thought being that commercial facilities have a more difficult time control. You know, if you're a car wash or a hotel or a rent, you don't have that same ability to water. So that's why they didn't go with the commercial. In level 3 and 4, not only is there rate increases for the tier rates, multipliers, there's also a surcharge. Because by then, we're really hoping the water levels cut down, those surcharges are hoping to make up some of that money that we're gonna be losing in revenue because we're not selling nearly as much water.
So is the surcharge a fixed amount?
It's a
Or
fixed amount.
based on the amount of water you use?
No, it's a fixed amount that is attached to every bill. And I'll go over how we calculate that and what it's gonna be in the new studies. And at that point, we do the same thing at this point now for commercial users as well. There's the surcharge right there. And so, and I kind of keep jumping ahead there, but so for 3 and 4, it was $17.23 and $21.53 per EU for the 2020 plan. It's jumping up to $20.98 and $26.23 in the new one, because it's based on our revenues and how much we think we're gonna lose in revenues. That's where that surcharge comes from. That's where the calculation comes from.
Can you put that in presentation mode to make it bigger?
I thought I could, I don't know why.
You get older, I can't read that, but I can read that just fine.
That didn't help.
Way down on the bottom bar down there, there's a projector screen.
Yeah. Oh, help a little bit.
That helps.
Okay, so that's the surcharge. Okay, so what worked? This is the hydrograph for the Snowtel station, for San Juan Snowtel station. For the hydraulic year of 2025, last year, or the year before last. And as you can see, the gray lines, this gray line right here is the cumulative precipitation. The gray's average, and the average started in, I think, the 80s or something like that. So it's quite a while with average. The black line is cumulative of what they got last year. So you can see last year the precipitation is down quite a bit. And then the red line is the median snow water equivalency for that particular day. So that's
Have you considered changing the average years? Because the 80s were really wet and the 90s, and since 2000, it's been a lot drier in our community.
It could be. The reason I do this is that's how Snowtel sets it up. I can try to figure out how to change the numbers, but I'm not sure. This is a graph. I can just go in there
Grab that
and
one.
two keystrokes and I have it.
I think, okay.
And so the average day that snow that we hit zero is the end of May 31st. And so as you can see, last year the snowpack was pretty low. There's a strong correlation between snowpack and snow water equivalency, of course. And we actually hit zero at 1st of May, then it snowed a little bit, and then 5th of May it hit zero again. So we hit the snowpack pretty early. Now that pushed us into voluntary stages the way that was. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but that's kind of how that did. So it did trigger something. It may not have triggered enough, but it did trigger something. Here's our water sales for last year. And if you look at this, and as I said, summertime, we sell a hell of a lot more water. And you see that there. Right here at the peak is when the board voted to go into stage 2. Remember, stage 2 put a multiplier on residential uses over 4,000. Right here is where the first bill kicked in. So when the bills kicked in and those rate multipliers affected, people started using a lot less water. So typically, and I had it on before, I don't know why I lost it, the graph here comes up here and then kind of hovers around and starts dropping September or so, but it dropped pretty quickly. So the stage 2 going into that really curtailed water use quite noticeably. So that worked. What didn't work? As I said, I think, we hit zero snow water equivalency 3 or 4 weeks earlier than normal. That's quite a bit. And regardless of dry gulch or anything else, or all our reservoirs, our biggest reservoir is snowpack. So when that dropped that early, that was a big thing. And we only went into voluntary. So I just think we need to move that up, so it's a little, we move a little higher than that. It's, like I said, 30 days and it's only dropped, only put us in the voluntary. The voluntary didn't do a whole lot.
I like your characterization, snowpack is our largest reservoir.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that, the sooner you move, as you know, nobody wants to pay more.
Yeah.
But, you know, the sooner in a year like this, you move into stage one, the more likely you are to prevent having to move into stage four. Where we tell
Exactly.
you all, you know, your grass is gonna die.
Yes, and your panel, yeah.
Right.
It's just really good. We also decided to put a rate multiplier on stage one. It's a small one, only 1.25. Because, you know, we're looking at some of the complaints, one of the things that the committee was concerned with is maybe that going to also all of a sudden go into 2 times, which is too big of a hit too quickly. So let's go into it a little slower, and maybe it'll slow people down without getting such a big.
Did you consider 1.5?
We started with 1.5 and we said
Yeah,
now
the
1.25.
consensus was 1.25.
Okay.
People
Yeah.
didn't feel that there was enough. I think it's just to bring awareness.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that was one of the biggest complaints from the committee discussion we had last year was I just didn't know, or I didn't have enough warning. You know, so since there was nothing in stage one and then you immediately went to stage two, we figured there had to be some type of multiplier, but again, the consensus of the committee was 1.5 to 2 isn't enough of a difference for what they felt the 2 stages represented, so 1.25 is okay.
They also moved, you know, it was 4,000 for stage, for stage 2, 3, and 4. It's still gonna be 4,000 for stage 1, it's 5,000. We also moved that up a little bit too, so try not to nail people too hard.
Justin, did we change when stage one would kick into those triggers or?
We did for the early season triggers, you know, snow water or whatever, but
Okay.
not for the late season impacts.
Okay.
Those ones seem to be working pretty good.
Yeah.
The biggest complaint we had probably was we didn't give enough communication. And so we actually started this before. I'm sending out a newsletter every Monday to the paper to put in there to say, hey, here's where we're at. And I'm kind of projecting out saying, hey, I think we're probably gonna go into level 1, level 2. I'm just projecting out so people have a little bit better knowledge. The committee does want me to add some beef to that newsletter to kind of say, you know, throw in there some tricks to conserve water and stuff like that. So we'll start throwing things like that in there. But we've implemented already. Like, we're trying to get the communication out there, putting it on our website. We're sending it to PLPOA so they can send it to the people around here. We're trying to get that word out.
The multiplier will be your best communication.
That seems to get people's attention.
But people should know that while, you know, we would like it to go smoothly from voluntary to 1 to 2 when it ramps up and you notice, I mean, we were a weather week away from going straight into 2.
Mhm.
Right, I mean, wasn't snow water equivalent down to like 7/10 of an inch at one point last week?
It's pretty low, yeah.
Yeah.
It's only 3 inches now.
3 now, but, yeah, so.
Yeah, that would have pushed us into 1 or possibly 2, yeah, really early. So yeah, it's pretty quick.
We're also sending out a drop counter message to any and all customers that are signed up for that, for the different stages or any other important updates that'll go to everyone that's signed up for the program.
And we put a little bit of stuff on their bills, not that everybody reads their bills, but we're trying to get the word out. We're trying to do what we can to try to communicate with everybody. And like I said, that's going on now. And we're gonna do that whether you approve the new drought study or not, because I think that was an important miss on our part last year, is not communicating quite as well as we could have.
And it's on the pop-up in really big font on the website.
We have also set it up as updates come out, they're all archived on the website, so a customer will be able to go through and actually see that timeline of all those different updates as we move through the summer.
I looked at the pop-up this morning and I couldn't read it
You
on
could-
my computer and I
You still
got a pretty big screen.
Oh, bigger
So
font.
Is it bigger
I
fonts?
couldn't read it.
Okay.
But
That's
will-
good feedback.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making sense or not, but, would it be a good idea to also, post it in Spanish?
Somebody does have to do that. I don't have that capability. Maybe ChatGPT could do it for me.
Well, and the reason I ask is,
Probably.
I know 2 people who have professional landscapers do all their work, and they happen to speak Spanish and not very good English. And so they didn't know, and they just kept on irrigating last year, and the homeowners got some
pretty good size water bills.
That's a really good point.
Mhm.
No, we will look at
Yeah,
that, thank you.
I'm sure that's doable.
Just a thought.
The committee also wanted us to try to contact schools and contact apartment complex, just to, the thought was get the kids involved and they can guilt their parents into turning the water off. Probably not a bad idea.
That's great. That's great.
Description of billing time, one of the complaints we heard was, so when you, as you probably recall, the district manager can put us into voluntary, but it takes a board decision to go into 1, 2, 3, or 4. When we went into 2, the board met, and so our billing starts on basically the day after the 28th. That's when the billing cycle starts. I think when we went into stage 2, it was on the 3rd of whatever following month that was. So there was 3 or 4 days that were in the billing cycle that weren't in the we weren't in the drought stage. Well, our billing, we can't really prorate billing. So when we put our bill in and put the multiplier in, it multiplied, including those 3 or 4 days that were before. And people didn't think that was fair. And there's a fair argument to that. It's really pennies, but it is a fair argument. Now, on the flip side, when we went out of drought stage,
Right.
we went out like 15 days after billing, but we didn't bill that whole month. So it made up for it in that case. But
Yeah,
And
but it's
this-
consistent, right? Because
Yeah.
how you go in and how you go out.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
So, but what we decided to do with this one here is when the board votes to go into a drought stage, right away, as soon as you say we're in 2, watering's every other day or whatever that says, the schedule's that way. But we're not gonna hit the multipliers till the next billing cycle.
Right.
That makes sense.
That's how we're gonna do it.
But then on the far side, the same is gonna happen, that if we go from 3 to 2 on, October 8th, you're gonna be paying 3 until the 28th.
No, we were gonna drop it off that month.
Okay.
Just to sort of benefit to the employee, to the
You were gonna,
To the
you
public.
were gonna
Yeah,
retroactively come out.
we'll
Okay,
knock it down. So it's a more, it's worse for our bottom line, but it's better for everybody else's bottom
The
line.
problem we ran into.
Customer friendly.
The problem we ran into at the discussion of staying in 3 is now all of a sudden, say you do go from 3 to 2, well, that's once a week versus twice a week. Well, all of a sudden I decided to go water twice a week instead of once a week because you told me I could. But if I'm still being billed stage 3, and now I'm getting that multiplier on everything above 4,000. So when we decided when we were coming out that it would retroactive, that's why, is because we're telling you can use more water. We don't want to tell you use more water at an extended rate.
Okay. I mean, I think we as a board, knowing that, like, for instance, I think we're looking at it right now where we're nominally voluntary. I don't sense that we're really involuntary, and we probably should be in 1, and we will be in 1 in 5 days, or
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, and we do.
So we'll need to do a special meeting before the 28th to make that move, so, because otherwise, if
Yeah,
our meeting
wait,
is
hold on.
then this whole thing won't work, because the increase will happen 2 months after
Right, yeah.
the state.
Or we can make a motion tonight that says when we hit those areas that we already agreed that we're going in.
Yeah, we were gonna actually discuss that. Yeah.
Right, yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
we're gonna. Then the last thing was fee waiver. This actually came up last year, so, and it actually came up with the, charter school. They didn't realize we were going into the drought stage, and they put in a bunch of sod. And they needed to water it, and so they really want, and we didn't have a method to do that, so we made a method of last year, so we made one to work last year. We only ended up having 2 people that asked for the fee waiver. And so we implemented it into this plan. And the fee waiver basically says if you have a good reason, and you have to provide the reason, and you have to also say what you're doing to try to curtail water use as best you can, but I have a good reason I can't meet the schedule. Let me waiver that. We'll let you waiver so you don't meet the schedules, you won't be fined, but you're still gonna pay the multiplier. You're still gonna pay that high level, so you're still paying a pretty premium for water in that line.
It's not quite a fee waiver as much as a schedule waiver.
Yeah, it's really a schedule waiver.
And we did change that wording on it.
Yeah,
as well.
I should have changed it on here.
Well, no, it's fine, but
Yeah.
we did change it to schedule waiver so that people understood, like, if I'm telling you to water once a week and you're telling me you have to, we're gonna give you the opportunity to do it because we know it's a need, but you're still gonna pay the same rate.
Yeah. And I can pull that up and show you that we make you initial saying that although we're giving you this waiver, we can rescind it at any time, because you know, if we go from a 2 to a 3, we're probably gonna rescind, it's gonna die, because we're in bad shape here. We have to do it. That's just it can be, so we can pull it anytime, and you have the initial saying, I know I still gonna pay you the money. Still gotta pay that higher rate, so we have some things in there that they have to agree to get that waiver. We got 20, I think 27 written complaints last year. I compiled the written complaints. I didn't pay attention too much to the phone calls of calling me names and stuff, but the written complaints, those are the people that had something that they wanted to say and thought it was important enough to actually write it down. So I kind of looked at those. And as you'll see, there's more than 27 here because some people had multiple complaints. But here's what we saw in the complaints last year. We went into that. The vast majority of the complaints were they didn't know about the rate multipliers and or the drought. The rate multipliers I can understand. Not knowing about the drought was a little hard for me to stomach. And several that were just thought it just wasn't fair. They just weren't happy with it. My favorite were they support the drought. You guys are doing a good job. You really need to do that. But I should be exempt because I have special, you know, guards. Yeah, a lot of things with horses. Some people were upset because the commercial users don't have multipliers. And we explained why, and I think our way is justifiable. I can concede the complaints because even last year when I was going around, I would see some commercial users sprinkler heads spraying the parking lot, and I can see where that would irritate me getting a rate multiplier and that guy's spraying the parking lot and has no fee. So there was some justification in that, but I'm not, you know, I think what we just need to do is go and talk to those people and say, please quit spraying your parking lot. I just don't, I think the reason that we do the rate multipliers, the way we do is justified. And because of the commercial users, couple of people wanted agricultural exemptions. I'm a little, we didn't change that. Simply, if your ranching activities are based on municipal water use, it's probably a poor business plan. We're a municipal entity, not an agricultural entity. So I understand why they want that, but
It's poor horticultural plan too.
yeah.
I'd sort of like to hear the board's thoughts about the residents paying a multiplier and the commercial not paying. When we're all in the same boat, we're all in the same drought.
It's for stage 2 only. At 3 and 4, they are paying more.
At 3 and 4, but
Yeah, but not at 2.
1 and 2.
The 1 and 2, they're not correct.
I mean, don't we want to all kick in to solve the problem?
Well, I think the thought has always been though, in my perception anyway, is commercially, it's their. Yeah, it's their lifeblood. If my grass dies, then I'm gonna be mad, but if I can't serve, keep my restaurant open for, whatever reason. Business, that's the difference between residential and commercial, and I support that up until you say like a certain, the 3 and 4 level.
Okay, so I'm not talking about watering a lawn because most commercial doesn't have that problem. But, I'm gonna get charged for brushing my teeth and washing my clothes. But the guy who has a business is making a profit, is not gonna pay.
If he's making a profit.
If he's making a profit, is not gonna pay what I have to pay as an ordinary citizen. I'm just questioning that as
It's fair. I'm gonna argue that we try to set it up that you're not paying a fee for brushing your teeth. You're paying a fee for growing your garden.
Because you have 4,000 gallons either way.
That's a lot of
To
teeth.
to brush your teeth, to take showers, to do whatever. I think the point is if I own a commercial laundromat and you decide to take 45-minute showers, yours is a choice, and you went over 4,000 gallons. If people want.
is it 5,000 gallons?
It's 5,000 for
Stage
for fit stage 1, then 4,000 for
4,000 for
the
the
other stages.
So-
And then commercial, when it goes to 3 and 4, that's 6,000 for commercial.
So if it goes though, but if I go over 4,000, it just means people have to do their laundry. You're also only gonna go into a drought stage when we have the most people in town. And different things like that. So I think that from a commercial standpoint, to Glenn's point, maybe they're making a profit, maybe they're not, but if you punish them for running a business that actually serves the community at large, then you're really almost being a deterrent of business. Again, that's a service to the community. Now, one of the things that got brought up, which obviously there's not much we can do about, is that, okay, well, McDonald's is still now watering their lawn at a rate that's less. The hard thing is you can't really create a meter that tells me when you're actually irrigating your lawn and when you're actually running your business. So there are a few exceptions that they kind of get a little bit of a benefit, but for the most part, when you're talking about a car wash, a laundromat, a restaurant, stuff like that, you're really saying, hey, can't really control how many people come in. And because you're offering a service, we're gonna give you a break in stage 2. But again, like he said, stage 3 and stage 4, now you are gonna pay it because we all are gonna chip in because we really are in a detrimental form.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so many businesses here are so seasonal, and the season where they, make a break is the summertime, and probably if it's a drought situation, they're probably gonna meet a lot of other stresses as well with declining, people coming to the area that, at least the last time it was felt that, that, once we hit into 3 and 4, but, in stage 1 and 2, we rely on them to do their best practices, and nobody really gets employed for my toothbrushing or even my gardening, whereas keeping businesses, afloat in tough times keeps people employed. It's kind of the balance the last time we did it.
I don't know if you got any complaints. Ma'am, for your benefit and for those, in the media and those listening. You drive by and you see a lot of the condos and the golf course and their sprinklers are all running. None of those folks are using drinking water. They're using raw water, which still has a cost to it. But they also pay for it. So that's why these restrictions, correct me if I'm wrong, they only affect potable water users. Does that make sense?
That's not totally true.
Okay.
There's a point at which that gets cut off, right?
So,
Yeah.
so the golf course is its own entity. The golf course, when they had their own water rights, and at some point they deeded those to PAWSD, and part of that agreement is they're guaranteed 300 acre feet a year. They typically use about 200, but they're guaranteed that, and they are not subject to drought. We promise them they have to get that. So there's nothing, I don't even for them 4, they could typically use it. So but the condos, the homes along the lake that can pump out, they are still subject to, they're not gonna see the multiplier because it's raw water, but they still can't water, they still have to maintain the schedule that we require during the drought.
Okay, and the golf course, as soon as they hit that 300 acre feet or whatever, they're also cut off.
Well, then we could cut them off, but like I said, they usually use about
Yeah,
200, so, but so in theory after 2, but yeah, we have to give them the 300 first.
And then the other question I have very quickly, do we get any PSAs or anything on K-Wolf? Or do you used to go on and
I used to go on sometime, but they haven't invited me back, but everybody else, so.
Andy gets to do that now?
I don't, they haven't invited you on.
They have not. Radio voice on.
Bring DeGrack, he's fun.
Yeah.
He'll be pretty, passionate
Stern.
about
He can be pretty stern.
and drought and how to conserve.
I had somebody that just said you can't use less than 4,000, that's impossible. And they want people on the pro rate of the billing, we kind of address that with how we're gonna move forward with when they start getting hit with it. And then some people said we didn't give enough time to curtail water use. Again, we're gonna try to fix that with the way we do billing and with the communication we're trying to do. So here's what you want to see, the update, what we did in the report. We didn't change a lot. Like I said, the bones are still there. So I just wanted to kind of get what we did change. We moved the early stage drought trigger up 1 week for each drought stage. So remember for that snow water equivalency, if stage 1 hit on May 14th, it now hits on May 7th, 21st. 21st, go back, yeah.
Oh, it goes back.
Yeah, it goes back. So we made that a little more stringent. We didn't change the way we go into drought with Hatcher, the river and all that, because that seemed to be working pretty good. We added the 1.25 multiplier for stage one and the triggers at 5,000. We're trying to up our communication. Weekly press release, can contact school, we're gonna contact apartment owners and residents and try to get the word out a little bit better than we did in the past. Now we're gonna change the billing timing, but moving that to the next billing cycle. We included the waiver request, it's part of the drought plan now, it's discussed. And that waiver form that we built is actually in the plan.
But it's a scheduled request.
Schedule request, yes, it's a schedule request. And then we updated, there's a lot of tables in there that had flows from 2010 to 2020. Now it's 2010 to 2025 or whatever it is. So I updated the table and then we found some minor, errors, spelling errors and grammatical errors, and we fixed those. That was it. Okay, so that's the plan. I just wanted to show you this. This is the SNOTEL data from today. And so you can see, we were almost at zero, then we got that snow a couple weeks ago, and we're going down. So I would still say in the week, we're probably gonna go into a stage, where depends on where it hits, it's gonna be close to a stage 2, it's gonna be a stage 1 or a stage 2. And it depends if it's 5 days away or 10 days away. It's gonna be really, really close to that. That's where we're at right now. And again, you can see, when you look at our precipitation, it's not too bad, but that's because of those big rains we had in October. Remember, the hydraulic year is from October 1st to September 30th. So that's where that
Should have saved all that water from October.
How does this plan react if we, let's say this Saturday, we got a week's worth of rain? How does the plan react?
Well, so once we go into the early stages, then we'll start paying attention to the water and hatcher, stuff like that. So the river level run, stuff like that, we'll contact the board and you guys can vote to go out of it if it's looking really good.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a board decision. We don't, we're not forced to stay in it forever because it was like, if it starts raining like mad and there's no reason to stay in it, we can get out of it. And we also kind of look at it, last year was also kind of weird because we had two things that made last year weird. One was, although it was really dry, they didn't call the 4 mile until end of July. They curtailed what we could get, but they're still giving us a half to 1 foot through July. And that really kept Hatcher full. So it was really kind of odd because Hatcher was pretty much full. So we were being dictated by the river flows. So the river flows would drop down and would push us into 1 or level 2. But then we'd get a little rain and it would pop up. And so it was going up and down and we didn't want to, go in and out of drought. So we kind of waited till it really hit and when it looked like we were going to come out. And that was basically after Hatcher, they finally put the call on, finally made some disagreement, said we have to, sorry, we got to take it all. They're being very generous. We have to take it all. And as soon as Hatcher started dropping, it threw us in because it was so late. But last year was a weird season because
Was that the ditch owners more than the water commissioner or just?
Oh, it's the ditch owner. It's fully the ditch owners.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
let him, telling the commissioner, we'll give him a foot or a half a foot or something like that. So I'm saying to keep Hatcher full, if we could get a foot-ish of seeing the water rights, we'd be in really pretty good shape. Cause it kept Hatcher pretty full until they finally called.
Water pipeline.
That'll help because we can move that water, but the fresh water comes from that we don't have to pump. It's that
Okay.
fresh gravity water is always better. Yeah. So there you have it.
Okay.
All right, well, next is consideration of
Do we
drought
need a
stage.
motion on that?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Oh, all right, I'm listening for a motion.
I wanna discuss this first, but I.
Well, you can make a motion and then
Well,
we
no,
can discuss it.
discuss it.
and I'm saying we can discuss, because then the motion doesn't have to be changed 500 times. I would be in proposition of us making a motion that gives our staff the freedom to move into the stage that they need to based on the water levels between now and like a week before the end of the month. Because the last thing I wanna do is say, let's move into something now, just to find out a week from now, we're moving into a different stage. And then all of a sudden we either have to have a special meeting or a vote I think that if we agree with the drought plan, then we agree that we're gonna be either moving into more than likely stage 1 or stage 2 by a week before the end of the month. But I would propose that we make a motion that reflects and gives them the ability to do either. And that's the only reason I say a week before is because people's biggest complaint was you didn't give me enough time. And that gives them a week to also advertise, this is what you're actually going into versus we're going into 1, they communicate it, we're going into 2 now, they communicate it. I think that giving them the freedom based on the plan, which I support, is gonna be to the best interest of all of us, but I'm open to discussion.
Well, while it would be nice to have a week, but if we were to hit 2 on the 27th, I think we still need to go to 2.
Mhm.
You know, it would be nice to be able to give you that run up. I appreciate it too, but it is what it is. I'd be fine with at stages 1 and 2. Once we get to stage 3 and 4, I think the board should make that call.
100%.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because, and especially for, we're telling you your lawn's gonna die, and I think we need to do that.
Oh, 100%.
And that helps you guys out too, because you're, oh, these guys, they, you know,
I would recommend you only do that for this stormwater equivalency.
period.
We're about to hit it.
Right. We almost did it last week.
As we go on and the hatchet starts dropping, then I think we can bring you in to do it, but for now, this is gonna happen. In the
Right.
next, so either you could get stand 3-point stands to come back in, or give it Andy, I'll leave it to the district manager to say, we're at 0. It's 0 on this day, says to go in this, that's what we're going into.
Right. No, I'm fine with that, you know.
And that's just for this year then?
Yeah.
For this instance, okay, so we're not changing how that is structured in the drought management plan, okay.
So I make a motion that we give our staff permission to move into stage 1 or stage 2 appropriately, based on the water levels presented in the plan.
And accept.
As well as approving the plan. Adopt.
And accept the plan that's presented.
Right. I'll second
I'll
that.
second that.
We got a motion in 2 seconds. Any further discussion?
I just want to say that to Justin, I really did appreciate your attention to detail and stuff like that. The meeting was actually, there were some, things where people wanted to discuss how we could make the average person understand why, which is hard. But outside of that, I mean, the information was spot on, and you did a really good job of making that very easy. So,
Yeah, this is kudos. This is a superb plan.
Yeah, good, like I said, it has good bones.
Yeah, and back when we really wanted the board to be in control of everything, that's when I did the other one where we were, if you go by the book, we were putting you to stage 3 on October 15th, and which was just silly. Now that we have a much better action plan, I'm comfortable with that.
Well, if you've been watching TV, most Denver suburbs are already in drought stages. This is totally expected.
Now, I do propose we're looking 5 to 10 days before we probably hit either stage 1 or stage 2 to be able to implement those tier increases for the next billing cycle.
Right.
So that will give us the next 2 weeks to actually push out that education to all of our customers, the schools, get POPOA a heads up. That way we're not billing the entire month of April. That's what we had ran into last year. And it's gonna be even worse this year because it's gonna catch right in the middle of the billing period.
Yeah, and then people should know that, it might be 1, but it could be significant, because we might be moving right into 2.
Yeah, so if the board approves, we go into stage 1 or stage 2 in the next week, I can go ahead and implement that with the actual fees increase to hit the May bills.
correct. And I think with the acceptance of that, it will hit May bills. But I do think we discussed once we go in that the scheduling.
Schedule starts
Without
out.
Schedule is immediate.
But obviously billing waits till
Yep.
that 29th. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
Okay.
I think Carl has
Carl has
a
a.
question. Go ahead, Carl.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I had a question about the waiver form. Could you bring that up, Justin? I'd just like to, I have a question about it.
What is the question?
The waiver form, could you bring the waiver form up? I have a question about it.
I'm doing it, here we go. Okay,
Ah, beautiful. Okay, thank you. Go down to okay, so, due to specific property demands or hardships as stated below, I request a schedule waiver from the district drought management plan restrictions for the following. And, I don't see how this applies to rates. This looks like it's more about water quantity. These
exactly, it
checkboxes.
does not apply to rates. Matter of fact, as you go down here, it'll actually say, I understand that even if the waiver is granted, my account will be charged and I will be responsible to pay the water use tier multipliers and drought surcharges for the drought management plan. So it does not waive the fees, it only waives the schedule.
And that's why it's
Thank you.
called a scheduled waiver.
I appreciate that clarification. Excellent report, Justin. Thank you.
And Carl, just to give a little bit more clarification, even though it wasn't asked for, the primary thing that we rely on when somebody's breaking the schedule is neighbors who would call in and stuff. So if somebody was to call in on per se you, but you had just planted sod and we had given you a waiver, then we would be able to say, yes, he is an exception for this reason. It's just for better communication between members.
It's also for some protection. In the drought management plan, we have the right to, if you keep water when you're not supposed to, we can, in theory, fine you. With the waiver is gonna keep that, I don't see that happening because we're not really the water police, but in theory, we can fine you up to $500 for not following the schedule.
Once
That's what
we
the
get
waiver.
into, once we get into a four, I think the whole culture changes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have a motion and a second on the table. Not hearing any more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously.
I have a question that's kind of related in a weird way. We're only using half of Hatcher. Do we have any long-range plan to fix that problem?
There's two. There's a lot of discussion on that. There's some concerns with that. One is, when you go to try to dredge, this is one way to fix that, or knock the rock out and stuff like that, is it brings up so much of all this sediment material, it just kills the plant. It just destroys the plant, so that's a problem. There's also the fear, and we got that, I guess there's a rock base that goes, kind of splits some of that up, and a lot of people say, let's go knock that down. The concern is you knock that down and it opens up a little hole and everything drains out like a big toilet bowl. That's always a concern as well. So
Is there any such thing as, some pilot testing?
well, I think if we really want to look at that, we could put a budget in to try to get some type of geological study done on it to determine what if those spheres. I'm not sure how we take care of the sediment issues.
I mean, this might be a great year to do that if it gets down to, really low water level, that we may be able to do some experiments that we wouldn't be able to do comfortably.
Oh, it would, if it gets down 7, 8, 9 feet, I'd say we'd be crazy if we didn't do it.
Kind of engineering dummy question. Once we get to that point in any drought scenario, couldn't we simply pump the water from one half of Hatcher to the other?
I assume we probably could if that thing turned into a dam.
Right, and then
We
we get
did
the
look
simple,
at that in 2018.
right, I mean, you may not wanna,
We hope we don't get to that point, because by the
Right.
time we get down here for pumping out that water, it's gonna be,
yeah.
that's gonna be difficult to treat that
So
water.
don't wait.
You say we did pump from the main portion of lake in 2018?
No, we looked at that as being an option because we were down, I think we were down around 7 feet. And that was at the staff level, looking at what it would take to put a floating pump out there and actually transfer that water over.
Let's just connect Stevens.
Yeah.
And that's really.
The fresh water is a big challenge. The last time that we dredged the lake, I was here and we completely plugged the membranes in the Hatcher plant. That facility completely plugged. And we had to fly specialists out from New York to get that cleaned up. But we do have a plan in my notes. We are starting the San Juan facility much earlier. We're actually running water right now to the facility and getting the testing done to start putting that online in about the next 10 days.
And then we sandbag the river and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It sounds like we run the river as long as we can. It's a higher rate, but we run as long as we can. And the other thing Justin mentioned, which again, you'd have to really be reading through all of it to really understand is there is a thing that talks about the water rights of that we obviously are like, I think 12th or 15th on or something.
For 4 Mile, we're 12th, our straw was the 12th when they put it in.
So we're 12, but in the case that they deem that everyone's gonna go without water, the state comes in and then says, hey, you now become.
The state can.
State can come in and say, you are number one. There's obviously a rate that we have to compensate them at, but I'm just saying there are other things that you would hit before you would.
But if it's that dry, there's always a possibility that 4 Mile doesn't have water anywhere.
Right.
Yeah, we actually did that 35 years ago. We went to some of the ditch companies and said, will you lease us some of your water? We're hurting. And long story short, we were still allowing a very small level of irrigation. And the ditch company said, no. As soon as you stop irrigating, come and talk to us again, but.
Why is your grass more important than ours?
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, can't argue with that.
That's some old time ago, so logic.
Okay, I believe next is manager's talking points. I had a couple questions for Andy.
All right.
Now, did we want to declare voluntary?
We are involuntary.
We are involuntary. So
Yeah, we went into voluntary on Monday and sent out updates in education through all of those different.
So number 9 on the agenda, consideration of drought stage
that was,
designation.
That was mine.
that was handled by.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we did
Okay,
both of
we
those.
voted and we're good.
Either.
Let's see, so how far ahead of schedule do you think we are on the Vista? You know, because of the lack of snow and moisture,
Right now, we're still tracking on getting done in June. We were just able to start the demo of Clarifier 1 and 2 a couple weeks early.
okay. And I was interested in, I wish you found a whole bunch more 1-inch meters that were unregistering by 18
Well, I
GPS, but
just haven't had.
That's the ones we've tested.
Yeah, that's the ones we have
Yeah.
tested, so this program is slow. I can only send off so many meters in a month. We sent off a dozen meters this last month. We just got the results back yesterday. Half of those meters, 3 of them that were either 3/4 or 5/8 were reporting under 1/4 GPM. The 1-inch were all under reporting all the way up to 34 GPM. These are older meters. This was all meters that were taken over from the town, so we don't know the actual install date. Sometime before 1970 or 1992, I'm sorry. Or we did a massive upgrade in 2013. When we talked to the meter flow company, they said after 10 years, you're gonna start to see some degrading, especially on those lower flows. We have meters out in the district that are 20 years, 25 years in the ground. I need to keep testing my theory to make sure that it's holding, but as it stands now, we definitely are seeing a low flow problem. Anything under that quarter gallon, which is the toilets flushing, the teeth brushing.
So Bill, when you brush your teeth, you're not getting charged at all.
Yeah, so you're actually.
Brush 3 times a day.
So right now, after discussing with the third party, I was having them come and pick up meters, send them off for testing, bring them back. We weren't incurring any shipment costs. That's taking too long. I want more data quickly. We're gonna start drop shipping this month, so I'm hopeful. I only got 12 meters out in the last 30 days. I was hopeful to see somewhere around 24 with the drop shipping. I think I can increase that, and that's what we'll start in this next month. The meters that failed the accuracy test, the 1-inch meters are an absolute replacement. We saw too much inaccuracy on too high of flow. So those will be a full replacement. The residential meters will just be a full rebuild. I've got a couple hundred parts, all the way from the meter body to the register. We'll replace everything before we put this stuff back in the ground. Yeah, and we're building some spreadsheets so we can track what has been sent off, what is failing, when we're rebuilding them and putting them back in the ground, because I assume that after this year, once I get all this data together, that we're gonna look at a massive meter replacement. And then I'll be able to tell if we went in and did a full replacement on Gene's meter, for instance.
Yeah, you should do Gene first.
Yeah,
No,
all,
under reporting put me on last.
all good news. There is gonna be some blowback once I start actually replacing these meters and we start capturing that, but this is showing so far that there is water loss that is just a revenue loss. It's not running on the ground, it's running through the meters. And when I talked to this company, they said, really at 10 years, you really need to start looking at a phase program to start replacing your meters. Because after that 10 years, you're starting to see that inaccuracy, especially at the low flows, and it just continues to get worse as they get older.
Cool.
Any update on what our water loss percentage is currently?
It's still tracking where it has been for the last couple months. So no, there's no real update on that. We haven't found any major leaks that have changed anything, but with this information and as we move forward, that's starting to make sense that it's not water that's spilling on the ground. I can't find it if it's not actually leaving the system.
It's paper water. Yeah. That's good news.
It's good news and bad news.
Well, good news, yeah,
Well, yeah.
At least we know more. That's the good news.
that's what I need. I need a problem to actually be able to fix, because right now it's not like we're just leaving water leaks spraying all over the county. As things come up, and they will, especially with the bedding material that's been used in the last several decades, we're always going to have challenges with water breaks, but that's not where all of our loss is going. And this is also gonna help with the lake levels as well. The more that we can capture and bill, that could deter some of that extra use, especially in irrigation months.
You know, I wonder as we negotiate, if it turns into a negotiation with the CWCB, and they're always looking for, you know, positives or bullet points to justify something. We might actually, if we're relieved of annual payments of $252,000, as part of that, dedicate to maybe an accelerated meter replacement program with those savings.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at a couple $1 million for
Right.
full replacement of the entire system, and that's just the meters. We're gonna actually also going to have to look at the AMR system, which is all the meter reading software. So we're definitely, once we get enough data to deem that this is necessary, it's gonna take a couple years to phase this anyways.
PRVs and a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
Well, but it would be money we're not spending there and creating essentially a small reservoir out of, yeah.
One other question I had that had to do with some of the growth projections that were in your report. you've mentioned in a couple spots, the town GID accounts for one of you or something to that effect.
I'm not sure what we're asking.
I'm asking on the sewer side,
Mm-hmm.
do they consider, and I should know this, do they consider a hotel, regardless of its size, one of you?
No, they do a fixturing account worksheet as well.
Yeah.
Very similar to ours.
Okay, I thought I brought it with me.
For water and wastewater? Do they apply?
Well, they don't do water, they just.
Oh,
waste.
sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
here it is.
Yeah, they have 900 customers and 1,500 or somebody use, so they do on.
so they do.
All flows from tops register as one sanitation account.
Oh, the big pump station that comes in to us is one account.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We don't break that up and show that there's 900, 1,500.
Okay,
We just
okay.
know that there's one big one.
That makes sense. All right, any other,
There was a comment that Jack is working on possibility of a monthly report.
Are you ready or?
Yes,
Keep going.
I'm ready.
So I've got a handout of what Aaron produced back in 2004 in June. And I think I can do something very similar to this. Also, I went out on the county's website because I think that was one of our best practice kind of comparisons. I didn't really see anything there, but I reached out to Mr. Eaton and he sent what they have. And I think I can feel fairly confident that I can produce something like that for you guys each quarter. And from my perspective, I'd give about 80% of what he's actually doing. I do the P&L piece. It would show the comparison to the budget from where we're at. And then just some high bullets, 10,000 yard view bullets of where we were under budget, what, some of the seasonality items. If I'm doing this exercise, fuel costs went up 25% and this, from a month ago, that these things we didn't budget for, that kind of bullet, but fairly simple. Now I will tell you, I just received the tax money notice, so I haven't even received the cash for March. And there's quite a few things that I don't have my insurance payments yet for March that would go into March. So me being able to hit the month following the quarter or the 2 Thursdays after the quarter it's going to be too tight for me. But for this example, I would be able to hit Q1 in May. I'd be able to hit Q2 in August and then November. I would not plan on doing this in December because we will have an audit. We're going through an audit right now. And there'll be actual audited results as opposed to what we've actually booked and seen. This would give everybody line item activity of where we're at on each expense. If you guys are aligned with that, the only thing different than what's on the sheet that I just handed out to you guys, that I put a handful of bullets in. I mean, we're doing this exercise right now. We're going with each one of the operations departments, kind of talking to them about their budget. And that covers a good portion of the actual activity. So it gives everybody a pretty good insight to where we are, and you could line item ask questions or kind of ask questions as the whole fund. There'd be 3 different P&Ls. It'd be one for the general fund, one for the water, and one for the wastewater. And that's comparable to what the county is doing. It's not exactly, there's some pieces that I'm not capturing there. But I'd also kind of, to Glenn's point earlier, I'm learning stuff new every day at this stage in the game. This is something I feel comfortable that I should be able to actually provide. And annually, we're talking 3 extra days of actual work from what we're doing today anyways. So, I mean, that wouldn't be just full days, but it would be a couple hours here when I'm doing the reviews with the operations group, that kind of thing. It wouldn't be a big ask. And it would still give insight to where we are.
So I think the board would benefit from the budget to actuals comparison as a board. But I think the county also publishes a detail of, you know, this was paid to this company, this was paid to this company. And they publish that.
I saw where
And
they
it's
provided.
published in the newspaper as well.
Okay, I didn't
And
see it.
we get that at the charter school, you know, we can look at it and say, oh, why was this company paid this amount?
So.
And I think the public would feel more comfortable if the board was getting the detail as well. Not just the actual or the budget actuals, but the actual detail of who was paid last month. How much was paid out.
So I do have a couple of thoughts on that. My AP associate, she's also my HR department. My utility agent supervisor, she's my accountant. So we do have a bandwidth issue. As far as actually providing the register itself of what payables went out, we also have a board member that's reviewing that at every pay run. And so there's a little bit of redundancy there. And then the study time to be able to respond to, right now, I think we're at about 100 invoices that are going out, would be a time commitment that I'm afraid I don't want to commit to something that I can't provide. I don't want to say that I can't get that response to you. And I mean, the board's looking at the payables. So.
You mean the treasurer is looking at the payables?
No, who's ever signing the checks?
There's a dual signature requirement.
Oh.
One staff member and one
Yeah,
board
but
member.
the full board isn't looking at the.
No, you're correct. You're correct.
Yeah. I mean, it just, you know, I used to work with QuickBooks and it looked really easy to print out detail.
The register, I don't think,
register?
the register we're doing. So that would be me making copies. It's
Okay.
not an extra exercise. The extra exercise is me being able to respond to in the course of a month. I'm ballparking you here, but on average, I mean, it's a few hundred different line items of purchases. That's where I have a little bit of a rub on the cost benefit and my ability to do that timely.
You might need an assistant just to answer all the questions if it goes out in the board packet.
Well, maybe we could try it 1 month and see if the board has any questions.
Oh, I didn't mean just from board. Obviously, we need to answer all the board questions and don't mind answering all the public questions. But I have a hard time just keeping up with my current email. And we are all spread really thin. I know Cindy's doing 2 jobs, Teresa's doing 2 jobs. Jack does 5 jobs.
I think the response to the public would be come to the next board meeting and ask that question.
That's where I'm saying I need to prepare for the 300 invoices to be able to respond to those.
Nobody's ever come to one of our charter school boards and asked a question about the detail. It's just the people on the board who've asked questions now and then.
Oh, sure,
You know,
of course.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I think
that's
too-
an easy
I
email.
think too, Jack, just so you know, I mean, a response that I've had numerous times on the board is I'm gonna look into that. So if somebody does come asking about invoice 316597, your response at the board meeting is gonna be, I don't have that in front of me, so I'll look into it. And I'm not saying, again, I think there needs to be a balance too. When you're talking, I don't know what detail, I guess I need to look into what detail the county actually provides. I felt like this, after looking through it, was pretty comparable to what the county provides. I don't think the county provides all, if we do 300 invoices, they probably do 700 a month.
They did provide a list of vendors. I did not see Chad, when he sent over his information, he did not send over a payables register. So the detail that I received from Mr. Eaton was not what you're asking for. It was just the list
The
of
list of vendors
vendors.
and what they were paid.
They didn't have what they were paid.
They just had a list of it. I think that comes down to a breakdown. If somebody truly has a question about, I don't know, like, I mean, you'd have to find something on here, but like for payable to water bond proceeds, if they had a specific question about that, that's where the question would come. I personally feel like this is sufficient because I believe Pearl was the one who asked for this to be provided, which obviously we're all in agreement that I think it's better to be above board. But I think this is sufficient for what I think was requested, but obviously.
And this has been provided in the past and has been able to be handled by the staff that we currently have.
And the county does it monthly or quarterly?
Quarterly, I believe. If Bill, I didn't see anything posted in the paper. It didn't look on the paper. I looked on their website and then I reached out directly to Mr. Eaton. And asked about what they provided quarterly.
And when they do their quarterly, does it cover 3 months or just the current month?
No, it covers,
The quarter.
it covers year to date, the quarter's activity. So in June, you're gonna see a number that compares 6 months of activity to what, and this is another thing that's gonna be interesting, because there's a lot of seasonality that we spoke of today. But one of the items that we will be speaking to you about is our general insurance premiums. And we pay the big portion of that in January, but I'm just budgeting for a full year. So it looks like I'm significantly out in front of my skis when in fact, my volume's gonna slow down for the 11-month call in the first month. But that being said, both what Mr. Eaton provided, what I'm suggesting providing would be a 3 months total activity for those 3 months for the first quarter, 6 months for the second, and 9 months for the third. And then again, the audited review would be what was presented significantly after the 45 days or so.
February. Like I said, I'm comfortable with this. I think that this.
I haven't looked at this, so I don't know what this is yet.
And that it's P&Ls from the three from the three general funds, the water fund, the waste fund, the general fund. It has a comparison to what the budget was. I didn't provide it to Renee because this is actually something that was provided in June. I say in June, after June in 2024. I didn't have this quarter's ready because we don't have all the information for March yet. So, and that's not on our staff side, we're still waiting for the bills to come in for March. I'm still waiting for the revenue side to come in, that type of activity.
Now, this is a 10-page report covering all 3 funds, like you say.
Yes, sir.
Is this something we are suggesting to put on the website or give it to folks individually who request it?
My train of thought would be to add it to the packet for the next, for that next board meeting. So anybody that has access to the packet that you guys would get, this would be a part of that packet. I wouldn't necessarily try posting it to our website, but again, I'm I'm trying to provide you guys with what you guys asked, and at the same time, not put myself out there where I'm creating a lot more work for an already pretty lean staff. So and if this comes back and we tried this for a couple of periods and it's working good, or a couple of quarters, this doesn't mean that this has to be everything that you guys want to see. This is just what I feel confident that I can provide you with that 30,000 foot bullet point of, you'll hear something about the general insurance fund because we were light on budgeting that last year, but you'll hear that next period.
No, the only reason I would maybe suggest putting it on the website is it's a lot of information. And if the board packet comes out, just 3 days before the meeting and somebody needs a little more time to digest it, maybe having it on the website a little earlier might be a good idea. I don't know.
We could also send out the quarterly reports. A lot of times the board packets go out when they do is because we just don't have all the information in time to get it to you a week in advance. And that's not something I really have control over right now, so I'm sorry. I will strive to get back to that. Because we did do that before.
Thus putting it on the website if you have.
Or I could send it out to you guys separately.
Yeah. either
Yeah,
way.
early, and then you have more time. I try to get stuff out. Like, I had received the CDC materials on Saturday, so I sent those out on Monday. And then I try to compile it all into one really big document leading into the meeting. If that format's not working for you guys, just let me know and we'll make it work. But I appreciate how much the size of our board packets lately, so know that I know that they're pretty big and.
And I think too, Gene, when you're talking about just quarters, if this comes out, for say in May, like he's saying, and say that somebody doesn't get it till 2 days before the board meeting, they can still ask a question in June, July, August. I mean, they're asking for the information. They're not necessarily asking for a specific timely. So this is just an attempt to be more open. And I think that this, fulfills that. And then puts us in position, and again, if somebody has a question, they can, in fact, realistically, if somebody has a question that's specifically to it, it should almost be an email. Versus, I mean, unless they feel that they have to have an open, but there's gonna be very few answers, but I think anything they'll give right off the cuff.
Right.
Which I think is acceptable.
There's a question, Chief.
Carl, go ahead.
It's Candace.
It's Candace.
Oh, Candace, I'm sorry. Candace, did you have a question? Did anybody have a question?
Well, I mean, this was in the packet for about 10 years.
Right.
And maybe more of a reflection on me, the
Jane.
number of perceptive questions, though. Oh, wait.
Go
Oh,
ahead,
sorry,
Candace.
Jean. I was on mute. Sorry, it's just a point of information. The county posts its warrants and payables list in the agenda of each of its meetings. So if you go to the county regular meeting agendas and open the warrants and payables, the PDFs they're not all that readable, but they're there. And they're posted at every one of their meetings, which is every other week.
All right, thank you.
That's all.
I'd like to see-
What you're
I'd
getting
like to
at,
see
it's a
this
lot of
in May.
information and a lot of
Okay.
time.
And then.
I think this
see
is a
what-
really
how the
good,
board
I
feels
think
about
this is a really good start, like you're saying. And then if we want more detail, we can request it. But initially, I think this fulfills what's been requested. And it's something that obviously you're saying that is doable. And then if we want more detail or somebody requests more detail, then we can deal with how we approach that at that point.
It's a good tool for board education. You learn how, ultimately to read the budget. And then you kind of start to learn, when you think you've noticed discrepancy, you just start learning about the seasonality of the district and when things are paid. Which is great, have you a better sense. But there are some lines there that definitely, fee payment lines. If monthly fees on the wastewater district are discrepant, it's like, whoa, so it is, it's very worthwhile.
Yeah.
I like.
Anything else on this subject or any other information that comes
Looks like
before the board?
Candace might have her hand up.
I don't think she were.
Candace, do you have another question? Apparently not.
No, I don't. Sorry, I'm putting my hand down.
All right, thank you. If we have nothing else to come before the board, do I hear a motion? to adjourn?
Real quick, I did want to tell you, we're in negotiations with the Dutton Creek Ranch, which is now the BNP Ranch, on the pipeline.
Awesome.
Going forward, and it seems to be very, open to the discussion.
No, is that simply a pipeline, or could there be some summer water involved in that, or not?
Not from them.
Not from me.
They get shut off same time we do.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
Also FYI, I think I saw a car on the other side of the fence over there. Yeah, he hasn't reached out to me yet, so I might, if he is in town, I might reach out to him and say, hey, you want to meet Andy?
No.
Yeah. All right, I hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Motion to second, all in favor, aye.
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 Passes unanimously, thanks.